let's get going. So welcome to the Neuroimmunology breakout room session. So we have the ability to cast out some new ideas and just sort of have a general discussion about what we could invest in within neuroimmunology in order to achieve many of the goals that are part of the Grand Challenges Initiative. So I guess just as a brief introduction, UVA has a strength in neuroimmunology. So in 2012, a Center for Brain Immunology and Glia was established. And since that time, many new faculty have been recruited to UVA. Many prominent papers have been published. And there's even now a training program in neuroimmunology at UVA, which was one of the few in the country. And so we know we have this expertise at UVA, and we're really excited to build upon it. One of the other things that I just want to start off by saying is that each of the grand challenges that have been identified by UVA as places for investment and where there are grand challenges that remain, neuroimmunology fits into each of them. So when thinking about neurodegeneration, neurodevelopment, addiction, pain, and then using data or systems neuroscience to try to understand each of those, all fit with neuroimmunology. The immune system is found in all of the pathologies caused in these different conditions and diseases. It is a target for drug development. Many exciting drugs are in the pipeline. And there's exciting ways that the immune system could be leveraged in order to treat some of these diseases as well. So it's not just preventing neuroinflammation, but also potentiating it that could help treat so many disorders, including things like brain tumors. And so what I'm hoping to do in this session this morning is to identify some of the key questions that we might go after and what some of these investments might look like. So we have existing infrastructure at UVA, but there are some clear ways that we can likely invest money in really important ways that'll bring together people from across grounds and sort of leverage all of the existing strengths that we have. So we clearly have strengths in neuroimaging, bioengineering. We have a lot of people in chemistry that work on immunology and also the brain. And so in trying to identify the types of questions we'd build upon, we can even think about how we would bring people together through joint hires and things like this. So the way we'll roll with this is that people can raise their hand. They're wanting people to keep their comments relatively short, 30 to 60 seconds. But we have a relatively small group, so I think we'll let people have the floor for a little bit longer if they'd like. So we can use this as an idea generating session, and then when we come back to the main session, I can sort of summarize what we've discussed thus far. So I'm happy to highlight more of what our thoughts are on areas for investment. But if anybody else wants to come in at this point and sort of make any comments or suggestions, please feel free to do so. Okay, Rahul?
Yeah, thank you. So there are two aspects, actually. I'm really excited about this. And then we know that with Yoni's work, we had a leg up over most of the neuroimmunology programs in the country and in the world. And then with him leaving, it has left a lacuna here that needs to be maybe fulfilled rapidly. And some of the work that we do in our laboratory, it deals with autoimmunity, deals with immune homeostasis, and also deals with acute injuries, all of which we study in the realm of pancreas and kidneys, but we know that the same pathways are also applicable in brain. And you and I, we have done some work in past together and discussed there are some pathways that can be looked into, especially they're looking at the role of regulatory immune cells in maintaining tissue homeostasis, because a lot of data is coming out now where we know that these newer cell types, immune cell types such as T regulatory cells and innate lymphoid cells are playing a role in tissue homeostasis. So that is one aspect. But the flip side of that is even more interesting, where the brain can control how immune system behaves through the chat axis, the choline, what do you call it? Blanking out here. But the vagus nerve innervations in spleen and many other organs can regulate how immune cells can infiltrate and migrate out of tissues. So these are two sides of the same coin that we can study and develop as part of this group initiative.
Right. So I think one of the wonderful things about bringing people together to think about these grand challenges is that we start to make the connections that maybe we should have already. So it sounds like, Rahul, that you should be coming to chat with the big group and sort of and participating a lot more because it sounds like we've got some overlapping questions and expertise that we could apply to some of these central questions, including how basically in a few ways, so if I were to summarize the areas you're thinking about, it would be how the immune system is sort of shaping brain health and homeostasis. And then there's also the way that the immune system is signaling, or sorry, the nervous system is signaling to immune cells to help control their reactivity. So in the reflexes and the peripheral reflexes, right? And so, yeah, these are two really hot areas. And I would say, well, we do have some expertise. I think we could definitely room to expand and invest in areas, including how the nervous system is signaling to immune cells to basically, what we don't understand is how this is potentiating immune responses or dampening them, right? So they can go both ways, but definitely an exciting area for drug development. Okay, excellent. So yeah, Niket, you've got your hand raised.
Sure. Yeah, I just introduced I'm actually an MSTP student from the Price Lab research group that does brain tumor immunotherapy. So I'm just wondering if brain tumor malignant immunology is something on the table. Since Dr. Harris, as you mentioned, it's kind of an opposite end where we can leverage neuroinflammation as a therapy in the setting of the brain versus neurodegeneration, where it could be potentially detrimental. So I think as a student, from a perspective, I haven't noticed like the malignancy side from the big center as much, but I think it's based on the high impact papers that come out in this field. I think it's an area that we have the expertise on that we can really invest in. And I think we have the collaborations with imaging and everything in place that it can really be something powerful. So.
Absolutely. So I think you bring up another good point that we do have some existing expertise in the area of brain tumors, and there are collaborations ongoing. So I know that I work with at least several labs working on brain tumors to help develop the neuroimmunology side of the stories. And so yeah, so this could be an area where there could be a faculty hire that directly works in this area already to boost this. But also just sort of thinking about, and I want to make a point that what we're thinking about is definitely not going to remain within the big center. This is absolutely a cross-grounds initiative. This is something to build neuroscience across UVA. So while the big center might be a foundation and a nucleus for a lot of this and sort of what we're definitely going to build off of, right? We're already prominent in this area. We want to continue to invest, but this is not going to be limited to being just in the big center. It's sort of a way to expand and sort of build upon our strengths. So I think brain tumors are absolutely an interesting area for neuroimmunology because all of these checkpoint inhibitors that have been so promising to treat tumors in other areas don't seem to be working as well in brain, right? So this is another hurdle. Not to say that we can't potentiate the immune system, but we need to have a deeper understanding in order to do so. Yes, I think we are well situated at UVA to do so, or at least build upon that area. And so in general, I think what we're looking for with these initiatives is, not just people. So we could think about topic areas, and then for the most part, whether or not we need to bring in talents to help expand these areas. But then there's also, are there any large investments that currently do not exist at UVA that would help to bolster this? This could include equipment. This can also mean sort of research personnel infrastructure, these types of things. In general, I'm sort of feeling like each investigator that would come to UVA would likely have some equipment needs, but there maybe not one central piece of equipment that would be a game changer for all people in this area, but instead really investing in the people that are focusing on these key questions would be a move forward, especially in some of these neurodegenerative conditions, including ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease. This is a relatively new area of investigation where people are looking at how the immune system is playing a role. The papers thus far are incredibly interesting and sort of implicating that the immune system is present early, could be driving some disease pathology. But of course, this is going to be an intricate balance. At some point, it could be beneficial. At some point, it could change and become detrimental, but there's so much to learn. But I think that one of the recurring themes is that the immune system is druggable. the central nervous system is far less druggable. But in sort of switching to that theme, I think that what we're all really wanting to do is to find a pathway that can be leveraged for drug developments and how to do that, right? And so I do think that we have opportunities in expanding our translation of our findings. And also, so that might mean we need to screen, we need to develop models with engineers. That's one area where we potentially need to invest. We have existing strength, which is wonderful. So whoever we would recruit into this area would have colleagues in chemistry and biomedical engineering and be able to immediately be part of a community, but with their unique expertise could really get a lot done. So basically we could do modeling to help screen a lot of molecules, and then we could move from there. Yes, Alban?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you're saying. So we know that the dysfunction of the immune system underlie all conditions associated with the brain, from conception to dementia and death. We know that there is malfunction of the immune system in the brain, right? So we have this opportunity to expand our reputation at UVA and to start to ask big questions and take them from the basic research level. So there can be someone in engineering, someone in biology, and someone in the big center, to a clinical level. And so what we need to identify is a gap that we have in our current structure to be able to go from A to Z. And what I mean, right? So we don't have any medicinal chemist at UVA. We don't have a person that can make molecule for us to take to a clinical trial level. We have a huge gap in dementia research, right? So there's only a few researchers at UVA that do dementia research, and none of them do neuroimmunology research, right? Autism, we have a strength, I guess, with Dr. Pelfrey and John Lukens. But again, all of those diseases have an underlying inflammatory condition. We are 50 years away from being able to repair the neuron, but right now we can turn off the immune system or turn it on when we need it. And that's an opportunity that we need to jump on because, again, we already have a solid reputation in this field. And I think by investing in that topic, we could generate something really amazing at UVA.
Wonderful. Thanks for those insights, Alban. That's really important. Yes, and so I think that would be the major way to sort of place a theme in neuroimmunology for the investments, is that we are all wanting to develop cures. We have existing strengths at UVA, but I think we need to build the entire pipeline that would start from the very beginning in our experimental systems, which would look like a lot of different things. This could be modeling and engineering, using tissues on a chip, using artificial blood-brain barriers, things of this, to the animal research we're already doing in models of disease, and then making sure that we can bridge that we have medicinal chemists to talk to. We have people that study drug trafficking to the brain and across the blood-brain barrier. And then we also have ways to interface with clinicians. I know we have a lot of medical imagers that are really interested in understanding how they can better observe inflammation in patients. And so I know in one of the other sessions ongoing right now, this is a discussion they're having. If they're going to start to engineer new imaging modalities, what should they look for? And neuroinflammation is something that they're also interested in focusing on, because it's one of the things that is a hallmark of disease. And we have very few ways to actually look at neuroinflammation in people, right? And this could be a way that we could differentiate the types of inflammation that are ongoing to help tailor treatments. So we've got so many areas to build upon, but we have this already existing strong foundation of neuroimmunology research at UVA. This is quite the opportunity to continue to build upon that. And what that really brings is a sense of community. Once we bring in anybody to UVA, they will have existing strengths, but they will also have us as resources, and that'll create new and exciting collaborations from the beginning. And so I think that we have clearly identified about 6 to 7 specific areas to build out to continue to be sort of national and world experts in neuroimmunology, that these sort of discoveries can continue to come from UVA. So this is wonderful. All right, do we have any other comments people would like to make? Any other ideas? So we can go back to maybe building on our idea. Oh, go ahead, Ayo. Oh, you're muted again. Spacebar will help you too.
Computers are funky. Sorry about that. I just nice comments, everyone. I really appreciate it all. It's nice to hear. Maybe just to kind of emphasize something that Raul, I haven't met you yet, but I appreciate the perspective that you brought. But even for the what you indicated as a lacuna with Yoni leaving, I actually see it as an opportunity as well, right? We can put it forward as something that we lack or as something that we feel in a unique way with all these ideas that have been brought forward here, that not only one person alone could not do it, but with the strengths that we have together, it's powerful, some of the things that we can do. So I see it as a, not that I'm saying that you didn't say that, but I see that we can see that as an opportunity to fly higher with some of these conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would just sort of like to build upon that point that we clearly built a reputation nationally, not just upon one person. And so we still have that expertise in-house, and there's more opportunity to build upon that. Alban, do you have another comment? Or is your hand just still up?
I think just to follow up on we're gonna have to recruit star, right? We want to recruit people that are players on the field, because this is part of building reputation. We want the people that do important science that will bring us even more on the map. So the investment should be generous to consider attracting quality PI to continue working on neuroimmunology, right? This is for sure, right? Yes, we want to hire young diamond in the rough, but we want to pick up people that are established, that are rock star already, and that's going to be a balance of both.
Right, and then maybe two other things that you can add to the list that we discussed earlier is traumatic brain injury and stroke. That's certainly an integral part of.
I think the thing is we're all in agreement that every brain disease on the planet has a neuroinflammatory component. There's no question about it, right? This field that's not an open question anymore. It's a fact, right?
Yep.
And then we cannot repair neuron, and we are far away from doing that. But we can really modulate the glia that we haven't talked about, and also the immune system to come up with discoveries that can translate to the bed. And that's one of our strengths. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Alban. Yes. Yeah, and sort of saying like there's really no limitation in my mind of the types of diseases that we can make an impact with studying neuroimmunology. We have so much opportunity here, but I also, I think that the focus often goes to the big center for where the neuroimmunology expertise exists, but it's so much farther beyond that. We have existing collaborations in biology and chemistry, and they're wanting to build these things. So we have so much talent already here. And of course, I think that when we start to think about having a pipeline all the way from basic science all the way to the clinic, we have some gaps to fill within that. But this is really not limited to any specific diseases. And I think that there's opportunities to hire at many different places, of course. And so welcome, Ram. We were just sort of summarizing how we have identified that every single grand challenge area that has been identified, neuroimmunology is going to play a role in the disease processes that are associated with those grand challenges, absolutely. And so we feel with neuroimmunology, we have this expertise and this base to build upon at UVA. And sort of we're identifying a few areas where we have, it's usually just a gap in talent. That's sort of where we're seeing things. So we have quite a lot of equipment, and I'm sure each investigator that we'd bring to UVA would have their own needs for equipment. But for the most part, that infrastructure is going to be people, the scientists that we would want to bring in to help to fill some of these gaps. And so we were sort of already saying that we have expertise in modeling and engineering. So we would like to build models of the blood-brain barrier, use more tissue on a chip to look at these neuroimmune pathways. And so basically we've got a lot of areas to develop with a lot of existing expertise. But we'd love to start to translate some of our findings into drug development and also be able to use clinical samples to really bring our research forward. All right. So we still have some hands up. Do people have more comments to make? Welcome, BJ. Nice to see you.
Yeah, sorry I'm so late. I had another meeting that ran over.
No worries. Alban, did you have another comment? Niket, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just gonna say, just echoing the clinical side, like UV has a really good stroke center, like the neuro-oncology side. Like from my interactions with them, they're really excited to build the networks on the basic science side. So I think the channels exist, and like you all have said, that we have the basic science tools and the expertise in the big center and elsewhere to really build those channels, because it seems to be all there. So
yeah, wonderful. Thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, we were discussing, BJ, and I don't know if you want to chime in here with your thoughts on brain tumor, but we were sort of saying that with all of these neurodegenerative conditions, a lot of neurological disease, there's a component of the immune system being present and playing a role.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah. And so basically, I don't know if you want to provide your perspective on areas that we could be invested in with neuro-oncology and using the immune system.
Totally. I think there are a lot of great opportunities. There are certain things that I think are starting to show more promise. There are certain things like the lymphatics that, someone published a substantial paper on this. That wasn't something that I've been as drawn to, but I actually think we have such great expertise and potential in microglia and macrophages in particular. And, with people like AO and yourself and others, I think that's extremely promising. I think actually there's enough out there and there's enough not being exploited that if we actually pitched a focus on exploiting drugs and potentially combinations of drugs to rev up microglia and macrophages against brain tumors, but for other diseases too. I think there are really a lot of missed opportunities, and there are some agents that I think can serve, have pleiotropic functions that can help. I mean, for example, there was a really cool paper on high dose niacin. It's two papers really from a lab in Calgary showing that high dose niacin can rev up microglia with applications against glioblastoma, but also against demyelinating disease like MS, and they showed it in an EAE model. And there are drugs out there that I think people aren't quite leveraging enough, but I think they have other interesting functions too. So, I was actually just talking to a colleague in neurology. We are playing with one class of drugs that we're showing can rev up microglia and macrophages. There's the high dose niacin. I think there are some other agents out there, but also how they're utilized, some of the details with dose and schedule, I think will be critical. I just think there are a lot of opportunities and people aren't taking a very thorough look at these agents. And I think there's a lot of potential and as AO has talked about,